Oh, we're back. I can't stay away. Back for the Colonel and the Kid podcast. I'm your host, Greg Heitmann. Here I am. And if you're watching this video podcast, you can see I'm still with the new hat. And I was thinking about just turning it over completely, and this would be my new podcast hat, my new style. So anyway, yeah, we're back again. We're kind of on a little bit of a roll here with running out some podcasts. I think we got chapter 22 up and ready to go, and that's the yoga Yogi Berra article. And this chapter coming up, it's probably the heart of the memoir, and I'll talk about that a little more when I get to it. But this podcast is based on my memoir about my grandfather, Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr. Well, I mean, technically it's Lieutenant Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr., but a lot of people just call him the Colonel. I called him Grandpa. And I wrote the memoir just to try to, I guess, try to preserve the memory and what I thought was a special relationship between a grandfather and a grandson. And to me, it's a worthy project, and I'm glad I'm doing it, and I hope it lives forever in in electronic form and in paper form. Well, who knows how much longer books will be around. Yeah, we'll see if maybe it'll be giant book burnings just for heat, not to destroy the information, but just for heat in the future as policies change and maybe some forms of energy fall out of favor, and we're back to burning trees and paper and books just for heating. So, I kid. That won't happen. not, not in my lifetime, I hope. But um, anyway, the Colonel, my grandfather, I guess he inspired me to do all this and put the effort into recording this podcast and get it out there, make it public. And I hope it's enjoyable for everyone. Um, I'm enjoying doing it, making myself laugh. We've had we've had some special edition podcasts that don't involve the actual memoir itself, and I encourage you to look at those and listen to those and just see some some of the ridiculousness that we've preserved through this format. Glad I could be part of that. Just maybe have a laugh or two and maybe share a laugh, make others laugh with some of the crazy things that we've talked about on the other podcasts, and check them out if you haven't had a chance. But I think we'll probably just jump into the chapter like I've been doing, and then the people that don't really want to see or hear about any of the other stuff that's going on, as far as the podcast goes, they can bail out, and we can have our little special time talking about the other recurring sections of the podcast that I like to delve into. And like I mentioned, this is the electronic audio and visual memoir of the Colonel and the Kid. And again, it's dedicated and about my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, my mom's dad, Lieutenant Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr. And of course, I think I mentioned it. I'm Greg Heitmann, the kid in the Colonel and the Kid part, and of course, the Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr. And I like to mention that this is part of this has become part of my own psychotherapy. Not to mention just a history lesson and preserving history, but this has also been my own therapy and just getting stuff off my chest, chance to complain, and well, most of all, it's just a recording some of the history of my grandfather. I mean, very limited part. Just basically my relationship with grandpa, and I think I think and I hope that a lot of people can relate to the grandparent grandchild relationship that I'm talking about here. And if nothing else, you can prepare yourself for your own relationships in your life and how to make them better, hopefully. Um, I I guess maybe a lot of times I'm sitting here thinking this is sort of a self-help book. Not sure that's exactly true. It's more of a history book, just preservation and a memoir. So I think you can glean some ideas out there that will help you live your life better and help others live better. Anyway, let's just get to the chapter, and I think it's there's a lot of reading here because the title of this chapter is the Yogi Berra article, and it'll unfold a little bit more. But I actually read a magazine article that I'm documenting here. I wanted to read that into the record. I thought about just talking about the article and showing the visuals, but I thought it's worth reading about and just having those details in the record itself in case the um, the visuals are lost in the future or the magazines are banned from society. That'll never happen. Wink, wink. But anyway, I'll read the chapter that I wrote, and then I'm gonna also include in the middle of that the article that was written by another author, and we'll get his name, and I really don't know anything about him, but I'll name him and give him full credit and full credit to the magazine itself. You'll hear about that coming up, but let's get started. This is the Colonel and the Kid podcast and the Colonel and the Kid memoir, chapter 22, Yogi Berra article. And as is tradition, we start the article with a quote. And today's quote is, quote, "You can observe a lot just by watching." And that's a quote from Yogi Berra. And that's what this is about. This title of the chapter is the Yogi Berra article. And let's get into it. Congratulations. Good for you if you have stuck with me and read this far into my recollections of the man I know as Grandpa. Some might say this work is a bunch of disjointed, half-explained, incoherent, pointless anecdotes that never move forward or make any sense. Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate. I think that's the way life is. Don't get me wrong, I'd say I've lived a charmed life, but it definitely hasn't been filled with the smoothest transitions between chapters. Just like this book. This chapter is what I consider to be the heart of the memoir. Everything points to this distinct juncture in my journey that led me to document my impressions of the relationship I enjoyed with Grandpa. It was always here, I just didn't realize its origins. I was too young to understand. Most history isn't understood until you have had time to look back on it and view the bigger picture and the context. As a judge in a court of law would say, take a hard look at the evidence. I like this phrase because it allows for judgment. Good or bad, we are the arbiter of our memories and our origins. I do find some difficulty in wearing my heart on my sleeve as I present my warmest thoughts and feelings of Grandpa that I've carried alone until now. And I have another quote here that I'll interject. Quote, it's like deja vu all over again, end quote. Of course, that's Yogi Berra, at least attributed to Yogi Berra. And we'll continue the chapter. Grandpa saw something in me that I never saw in myself, and he encouraged me. There was never a forceful lesson or that push that a child may involuntarily resist, innately rebelling against authority. It was a nudge. As a young boy, I didn't recognize his efforts, but I was lucky enough, or smart enough, I add parenthetically, to preserve something that reflects the kind of man he was and how special of a grandfather he was. This story ties back to the previous chapter, the bomber. And for those watching, those not watching, and those watching, you saw me, but those not watching, I made air quotes around the bomber. That was the previous chapter. And we'll explain here a little more in the next paragraph, but I just laughed because of the bomber. That's quite the title. So back to the chapter. Grandpa bought that 1981 Chevrolet Silverado brand new, as previously mentioned. I was 12 years old. Along with that truck, Grandpa received a subscription to Chevrolet's magazine for Chevy owners called Friends. On the cover of the August 1981 edition of that magazine was New York Yankee legendary catcher Yogi Berra. Inside the magazine was a short biography of Yogi, along with a few photos. One set of photos on page 6 and covering the full page was a sequence of images with the caption, "A photo sequence taken in 1955 demonstrates the power that made Yogi Berra one of baseball's long ball threats." In the margins surrounding the photos, Grandpa made notes, instructions for me. I knew I was above average athletically for kids my age, but it was here Grandpa saw something in me that he had hoped to encourage. A suggestion on how to be a better hitter and baseball player. Grandpa saw my potential and tried to nurture it. I think maybe I mentioned this before, but um, this will sort of reinforce previous chapters in the memoir. And getting back to the memoir here, getting anything in the mail at that age was amazing. Getting something from Grandpa was exponentially more fantastic. I've held on to the magazine since that time, knowing it was special, but not understanding the significance until more recently. It is surreal to think about. And I know I'm not documenting and conveying the emotional impact this has had for me. I don't think whatever I write does it the proper amount of justice. I saw the pictures and words on the pages of that magazine as a 12-year-old boy, but it took at least 20 years to pass before the message behind them would sink in. Then another 20 years after that for me to verbalize and write down the deeper understanding that I have found. It's such a simple lesson, yet easily overlooked. Grandpa took time out to associate that article with me, make notes on it, and mail it to me. What a confidence boost. Even 40 years later, I can thumb through that magazine, or now click through the scanned images and feel reinvigorated, brushing away self-doubt. Grandpa gave me his stamp of approval through his belief in me. Why is it still hard for me to believe in myself when I had my own hero believing in me? I guess that it's human nature to wonder about such things. A logical man has self-doubt, but still presses forward. And here we are. This is the first image I have for this chapter, and I'll read the caption and describe. I still have the magazine. Here's the cover image. It's in decent shape. I was just wondering if there was a letter from Grandpa that came with it. I don't remember if there was a separate note. I wish that I had the envelope in which it had come. And this is the Friends magazine. And it says Friends at the top, and then below Friends in smaller font. The Chevy Owners Magazine, August 1981. And this is what you get. Even in modern day, if you buy a new vehicle from Chevy, you'll get a subscription to their magazine, Chevy magazine. And it has different articles about travel and whatever, and highlighting different things. And on this particular magazine, August 1981, it was basically just about the full image, a head and shoulder portrait of Yogi Berra. And it says "Forever Yogi" in another font towards the middle bottom of the page. And it's Yogi Berra, the great baseball catcher for the New York Yankees. And he's in his Yankee uniform in the dugout, leaning over the rail, hands folded on the rail. And he's looking out at the baseball game playing out before him. And I'm not sure how old he was at the time this picture was taken. I should have probably looked that up, but I'd say he's probably mid-60s. Maybe I'm a little high in that estimation. Maybe he was late 50s, mid-50s. Let's say between 50 and 70. That's my guess for his age at this point. But he was a legend. So. And then the next image that I scanned in and I have preserved here is it's the table of contents from the magazine. Let me read the caption I have for it, and then I'll describe this a little more. Adding some extra flavor to the exhibits is the table of contents of the 1981 Friends magazine, complete with the circled article in which Grandpa wanted to direct my attention. So I will I'll just describe this page a little bit. And it says August, and it's got some pictures up there, and it's got sort of with the along with table of contents. It says there's a picture of Yogi Berra, a different picture of him with his New York Yankees baseball cap, and with the number 4 in the corner, and that's the first page of that article. And it's in the table of contents. It says "Catcher in the Rye," and rye is spelled W-R-Y. A chat with Yogi Berra, one of baseball's greatest and most lovable legends, and the author is Jeff Gaydos. Yeah, I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but his last name is Gaydos. Gaydos. So that's how I'm pronouncing it. Jeff Gaydos. And there's a little column on the side of the table of contents here. And it says inside. And I'll read the first couple paragraphs here. I'll ever read the whole thing to give you just an idea of the flavor of the magazine. It says inside. Sometimes as we go rushing ahead in the breakneck pace of American life, it's nice to slow things down by stopping to reflect longingly on the past. We call this process nostalgia. And it gives us a warm glow to remember things the way they used to be and the way we were. In this issue, we've got several doses of nostalgia for you, beginning with our cover story, page 4, on the living legend Yogi Berra, whom some consider the greatest backstop in the history of baseball. Just about all agree he's the longest-running personable attraction in the game. After Yogi, we recall the days when the American Sunday Drive was enhanced by roadside poetry from folksy folks who gave us those Burma shave signs. Whatever became of them? Read, beginning on page 8 to find out. And speaking of being on the road, is there anyone among us who doesn't get a twinge of nostalgia when he sees one of those mid-1950s Chevrolets passing by? They're the cars whose popularity seems almost as strong today as it was when Elvis, Bobby Rydell, and Fabian ruled the pop culture. On page 24, we trace the craze and let you know about a club that exclusively drives and shows 55, 56, and 57 Chevys and boasts 31,000 members nationwide. And finally, we revisit a quaint region of the country where time has stood still, the Boston Mountains region of Arkansas. Page 20. Where they still handcraft their goods, just like their forebears. Nothing is immediate in the lifestyle of the Boston Mountains, and maybe the rest of us who rush through life can take some stock in what the good people on the mountains have to say. So take your shoes off, relax, and set a spell with us and take a look back. So I should have mentioned at the top of the table of contents page here. It says Friends in big print, and this is August 1981, volume 38, number 8. Your subscription to Friends is a gift from your Chevy dealer. It's what you get for buying fancy brand new pickup back in the early 1980s. The next image I have here, the scanned in, I'll read the caption here and then go ahead and try to describe a little bit more. Had to have a drink of water. A lot of reading today, so testing my read aloud skills. The article is written by Jeff Gaydos. I did a cursory search on the internet and didn't find anything conclusive about the author. I realize the article was written 41 years ago, though information might be scarce. And on this kind of the intro page to the article, it's a picture. Well, there's a couple pictures here. There's a similar picture, probably taken at the same time as the cover. And a couple of other pictures. There's Yogi Berra sitting in the Yankees dugout wearing the visitor's uniform because it's not the white pinstripe. It's their gray and navy blue uniform, with that really dark navy hat with the NY on the cap. And Yogi's looking out at the field, pondering, and then there's a caption in the photo says Yogi mulling over strategy on the dugout step. And he has a quote. Quote, you can observe a lot just by watching, period. End quote. So he's got his arms crossed and he's kind of standing there with one leg up, knee bent on the step of the dugout. And in the background of that, of this first page that's scanned of the main article, it says catcher, and there's a picture of an old black and white photo of Yogi in his playing days. He's got just the backwards cap and his catcher gear on, and it's a picture of him in action throwing the ball. And he's looking out towards, I don't know, second base or wherever he was throwing the ball to, and sort of just the background of that. And on the second page, it was like the fold-out page, so it's on the left and right side of the magazine pages. That you would fold flat, you'd hold it flat, and you could see the bigger photo. So that's half of the black and white photo of Yogi as a catcher, and on the facing page of that is the rest of the black and white photo of him following through, and you can see his catcher's mitt there. And then, the first page it says catcher, and on this second page now it would say in the rye right next to where his catcher's mitt is, and of course rye is WRY. And I'll read the caption of the second page here and then comment on it and read the actual article into the record. So the caption reads, I like the play on words the author used. With all apologies to J.D. Salinger and catcher in the rye, quote unquote, with RYE as the spelling, we get, quote, catcher in the rye, WRY, period, end quote. Pretty good. Rye humor is some of the best humor. It's like the other day I was thinking that I need a nickname, and Slim came to mind. It wouldn't make sense whatsoever. I'm not thin, I'm not fat, which could make for an ironic nickname. Slim would be a good rye nickname for me. I finally got my summer haircut this week too. A number 3 guard on the clippers, got my hair down to about, third week of basic training length. My hair was fuzzy. I thought Fuzzy might be a good nickname. Unfortunately, it would violate the rules. You see, it would fall into the Indiana Jones category. Indiana was the name of the family dog, and Dr. Henry Walton Jones co-opted that nickname from the family pet. Fuzzy was the first pet cat in the family, and thus I would violate the rules of nicknames. Not to mention, it violates the cardinal rule of nicknames. You can't give a nickname to yourself. So, let's start reading the Yogi Berra article itself and get that into the record. And this article was written by Jeff Gatos. Some may not be able to recall the current backstop for the Yankees, but everybody young and old knows Yogi Berra, the clutch hitter who has become one of baseball's most memorable instructors and philosophizers. Here on the pages of a reliable reference text, resting comfortably between a saint and a statesman, Saint Bernard and John Berrien, is Yogi Berra. The three, you will see, have a lot in common. Saint Bernard constructed the fortifications of Hildesheim, the German city. Berra fortified the Yankees, a New York baseball team. Berrien's word was law in New Jersey. He had an enormous constituency. Berra's following's big three. Big. Also, I apologize for my struggling with this word. His writing style is a little New Yorker magazine. I think it's a little above what probably the common man consider. I had this all parenthetically. This is not from the article, but I will try to continue the article. Berrien's word was law in New Jersey. He had an enormous constituency. Berra's following's big there. Also, no matter where he goes, someone's always yelling, "Hey, Yogi!" Bernward was canonized for his deeds, having achieved great things in his field. Yogi was elected to Hall of Fame in 1972. And the three were notable orators. Here's Yogi, who rarely fails to give his followers something to think about. On the fans in New York, they'll boo you no sooner than look at you. On his ability to manage a team, I've been playing for 18 years, and you can observe a lot just by watching. To a female fan who told him one hot day, "You look mighty cool." "Thanks," he said. "And you don't look so hot either." To a stadium full of fans gathered to honor him, "Thanks for making this night necessary." Yogi-isms, they call them. This fireplug of a man who crouched behind home plate for 14 years, 14 seasons as a Yankee is renowned for his deeds and his words, but you have to listen closely when he speaks. And the text is continued. After the most important image of this chapter, and I'll read the caption, and then I'll try to describe. Here it is, the best documented advice Grandpa ever gave me. This is a treasure. The original magazine is stored safely away. No insurance policy could replace it. The luxury of modern technology allows me to preserve it forever in the cloud with a push of a button on my iPhone. And now here it is, saved on these pages where it will live forever. And this is a scanned page from that article, and it's just a series of photos. And I'll read the actual the caption for the actual magazine article of these photos. It says, a photo sequence taken in 1955 demonstrates the power that made Yogi Berra one of baseball's long ball threats. And this is the caption that I used earlier in the chapter in the text itself. And there's 4 photos, and you start with the upper left-hand corner. It's Yogi Berra with his left-handed batting stance, and he's just starting to take a swing. It's really a close-up picture of his batting in Yankee Stadium because he's wearing the pinstripes, and he's number 8. I'm pretty sure they retired number 8 for the Yankees. No one can wear that again. It's Yogi Berra's number. And Yogi is standing there with his back to us as the photo is taken from the first base dugout, looking across to the third base dugout, and the stands behind there, and you can see the fans kind of blurry. It's just black and white photos. And at the top of the page, it says, Greg, with a dash, please note, and then there's an asterisk. And this is all in handwritten script, handwritten print from my grandpa. And it's in the military script or military print. It's all capital letters. And then this first photo in the upper left corner there, as I was describing, it says 1, feet firmly planted. So he's giving me some hitting advice. And in the second photo, which is in the upper right corner, upper right quadrant, it says 2, eye on the ball all the way. And he's got an arrow pointing towards my eyes. And this photo is continuation of the series of photos where Yogi Berra is taking a left-handed swing, and pretty sure the way that this is the way the sequence of this photo, he's already hit the ball because it looks like the bat is kind of bent because it's stop action of that photo, and he's already put the ball in play. It's really a great teaching image of Yogi Berra's, hitting style and stance and just the form of hitting and how mechanically you should be doing stuff. And he's really got a lot of torque on on his torso, and transferring the power of his feet that were firmly planted and swinging and using the abdominal muscles to transfer the torque from the legs to the arms through the abdomen and putting some good wood on the ball. And it's just a great sequence of photos. And you have the third photo on the bottom left. Grandpa has a note with an arrow. This is 3, period, follow through with an arrow pointing as this swing is completed by Yogi, and he's kind of looking for where the ball is out in the field. A lot of the weight in the second photo, as you can see, was on his front foot, his right foot as a left-handed batter. And he's still got both hands on the bat, but he's starting to be able to get ready to get into his running position to start running towards first base. And in the fourth and final photo on the lower right-hand side of the page here, it's got a note from Grandpa, and it says, period, run, whether it's a fly ball, foul, or dropped ball. Run on contact until ref makes call. And I know my editor, Gwyneth Duncan, had pointed out in the notes she gave me, she said she had noted the grammar here, and it says weather, and Grandpa has spelled it not weather with WHETHER, but it's weather like in cloudy, rainy, WEATHER. And then for foul, he wrote FOWL like a duck or a chicken or something like that. And her comment on the editing was she really appreciated that of Grandpa's hunting, I guess his hunting prowess and experience was thinking about weather as in cloudy or rainy or sunny, and fowl as in ducks, because he liked to hunt ducks. So, and I always noted to myself too that he had used the term ref rather than ump, run on contact until ref makes the call. So instead of using ump, he used ref. And I thought that was notable in my mind that he was just writing as quickly as he thought, whether it was the official. I mean, ref is more like basketball and football, and in baseball, it's umpires or ump. So I thought that was, to me, just more special and endearing that he was, just like I said, writing it as quick as he thought about it and making those notes. And to me, it's just a treasure. We'll just keep reading here. This is another image, and I'll read the caption, and this is the last page that I scanned in of the article, and it's 3 columns of the magazine spread, and there's a picture in the middle, but let me read this caption, then I'll read the whole rest of the page. Lawrence Peter Yogi Berra apparently got his nickname from a friend that saw an article about yogis in India and thought Berra, after a loss, had that sad look of a yogi. That is truly a high-quality nickname. I would be remiss if I didn't include a comment about Yogi Berra, the Hanna-Barbera cartoon. You made it when there's a cartoon modeled after you. So, I'll read the rest of the article from Jeff Gatos again. And I think this is a little more conventional to read. Hopefully I won't stumble through it like it seems like I've been stumbling, really testing my read aloud skills today. He tends to cut through conventional wisdom and rely on his own worldview. Take this question about baseball and how it has changed. How are things different in the game since you started playing in 1943? Well, they still got 9 players, Yes, but is there a feeling of the game that is the same? Did it feel the same to you to play as it does now? What do you mean? Has baseball changed? You like it as much as you used to? Oh, I see what you mean. Well, I used to like it when we took the train around, It was nice. You could walk around and play cards with the other players. Yogiisms. In addition to his wisdom gleaned from dugouts in the public school system of St. Louis, Berra is thought of as one of the nicest, kindest men in baseball. He gets embarrassed when you talk about him, about his outstanding athletic record. He'd rather talk about Carmen, his wife of 32 years, and his 3 sons, all of whom have played professional baseball. He waxes on about all the summers when the boys were growing up and he was on the road unable to watch their high school baseball games. How Carmen has been such a good mother and wife. He talks about his own parents, Italian immigrants who were strict about raising him, his brothers and his sister, how they forbade him to play baseball because they'd never heard of the game and thought it was a big waste of time. How it was his brothers and his sister who convinced them, his parents, to let Lottie try it. But that was before he was Yogi. Hey, Yogi. Lawrence Berra was born in 1925 and grew up during the Great Depression. The work ethic was popular. My folks thought work. They thought I should get a job like everyone else. That was reasonable to Yogi. So he made it his business to work at baseball. He entered the Yankee farm system in 1943, and he played some with the Newark, New Jersey Bears before entering the U.S. Navy during World War II. In 1946, with 2 weeks left of the season, he was called up and put on the Yankee pinstripes. What followed is history. Berra hit 313 home runs as a catcher, a major league record. He played 148 games without an error, a major league record. He held records for appearing in the most World Series, 14, and the most World Series games, 75, and for getting the most hits in World Series action, 71. He is, no matter what he says, what is commonly called a living legend. And in the article, there's a little photo of him just in his a sweater, with a red sweater with a blue undershirt and blue jeans or blue pants there. And he's sitting just in a chair relaxing. There's a little caption under the photo. It says, Yogi, relaxing after a game. Wherever he goes, they still say, hey, Yogi. The article by Jeff Gatos. A hero, a man who kids and adults look up to. Not only because he is a good coach, but because he is a good man. People know it. They can tell just by looking at him. Berra is a short guy by modern baseball standards, but he's built strong and stocky. He has an open, friendly face and a wide smile, and he's instantly recognizable. So, in the hotel where he's staying during the 3-game series on the road, where the lobby's filled with a convention of engineers and where young hotshot players seem to be cruising around waiting for someone to ask for their autograph, Yogi stands out. People's faces light up when they see him. And he's always nice, polite. He says he figures fans are good for you. One fan remembers seeing his face on commercials. It always made him laugh. There was Yogi, his open yet gnarled face, with the ear-to-ear smile and crooked nose. There he was, selling Yoo-Hoo, the chocolate soda that comes in a can. He's holding up a can of the stuff as the camera zooms in on that face. Me for Yoo-Hoo, says he. End of commercial. Yogi still sells Yoo-Hoo. And it is said that he was once telling a reporter about the stuff when she asked if the name Yoo-Hoo was hyphenated. Hyphenated? It ain't even carbonated, said Berra in defense of the product he's been hawking for 20 years. And in defense of Yogi, it may be important to point out that people laugh with him, not at him. They tell stories about him and they love him at the same time. Like the night after game when somebody asked if he wanted to go to a high-class New York restaurant. Nah, he said, nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. Or like the day during practice when Coach Berra sent the pitchers out to do their drills, telling them to pair off in threes. Berra, with his Yogiisms and naive, you gotta like me expression, is easy to laugh. He doesn't take himself too seriously. Now a Yankee coach whose duties are no more specific than running the dugout and assisting manager Gene Michael, Berra has made more of an impact on the game than most of his present teammates could ever think of. Yet while others seem to be pandering for press attention during batting practice, glad-handing all the TV announcers and making sure their mugs get in range of the camera, old Yogi kind of ambles out to second base with his chaw of tobacco stuck in his cheek and slaps some practice flies to the guys in the field. And the kids in the stands yell, "Hey, Yogi!" And it's another season. And Yogi's still the hero. And all he has to do is be himself. And that's the end of the article. And there's a uh, little Chevrolet emblem, which is the little bow tie, which is what they use to notify you that this is the end of the article, and using the Chevrolet logo there. That's the article. Article by Jeff Gatos. Like I said, I did some cursory searching to see more about the author of this article, but I couldn't really find much about it. So we'll continue on and finish out the rest of this chapter with what I have written. Back to the chapter as I finish up the last page of this chapter 22, the Yogi Berra article. I don't think I have been a good steward of my gifts. If I have any, or whatever they may be. I call myself a writer. Maybe I have a gift. I think I have something along those lines. There's a quote from another writer I keep posted on my bulletin board in my office. That writer is Jane Kenyon, and she said, quote, "Be a good steward of your gifts, protect your time, feed your inner life, avoid too much noise, read good books, have good sentences in your ears, be by yourself as often as you can, walk, take your phone off the hook, work regular hours." End quote. Like I said, I don't think I have been a good steward of my gifts. That is in the past. This memoir, if nothing else, is something that will preserve the legacy of a man worth remembering. I think I'm the type of person that needs more than a nudge. I never had the conversations with Grandpa that I wished I'd had. He was my hero, and as it tends to be with most heroes, they might have an intimidating presence. When you're young and naive, it's easier to talk, but you don't know the questions you need to ask. When you reach a certain age and become self-conscious, conversations can be more difficult. You may have the questions, but one might be too embarrassed to ask. I regret my lack of courage to dig deeper into Grandpa's brilliant mind with candid questions and answers that he could provide. So that's my message I'm attempting to share. I feel like I'm leaving something out. It's so basic it seems like it can't be this easy. No, it's pretty simple. We can make a difference in lives with even the smallest of gestures. Go ahead and feel free to inspire your kids or grandkids. Shape the future. Don't be afraid to start the conversation on your end. I'm positive that would be Grandpa's advice. You go ahead and start the conversation. So that's it. That's the end of the chapter. And as always, we end the chapter with a quote. And again, it's a quote from Yogi Berra. Quote, "When you come to a fork in the road, take it." End quote. So that's the yoga again, the Yogi Berra article. I I feel like I have to comment a little more on this, and I guess not put closure onto it, but just maybe additionally just think, as I read it, as I pre-read it, and then read it into the record here. It's just I think I'd mentioned maybe this is leaning in some ways to be a self-help book, but that's the advice here that I just cannot stress enough is, the littlest thing can maybe make that big impression on somebody. Whether it was little kid me and Grandpa sending me this article through the mail back at that time, trying to help me, trying to help me be a better baseball player. I mean, you can just take that and I guess use it yourself and spin that ahead and how you can impact anybody's life, a kid or a coworker or anyone that you know, that encourage them and try to point out helpful things, pointers, references. I mean, granted, some people can take it the wrong way and think it's a criticism or, you know, keep your mind your own business. But I think you put a positive spin on that. I mean, the way it's presented to me, obviously, it was so special to get a piece of mail, a letter, um, an envelope in the mail with a magazine with handwritten notes on it, try to help me. I don't think I understood it like I understand it now, and how I can try to be helpful to others in the same way. But to me, it's very special and a treasure. Like I said, that magazine's irreplaceable. No insurance policy that could be enough to replace it. So in that sense, it's priceless, which is a word we can get into verbal abuse here, because how can we have the word priceless mean two things? You can't put a price on it because it's so valuable, or is it priceless because it's worthless? We don't have the word worthless, but priceless also could mean you can't put a price on it because it's not worth anything. That's the fun of the English language. And that's a good verbal abuse thing to explore in the future. No time for that now. We got other things to talk about because we've already gone 40 over 45 minutes, and that was a long chapter, a lot of reading. So I won't go on too long for other things. But I did want to point out again, let's do some marketing. We have the poster that's up in the background there, the Buffalo Lake poster, and that's behind. I mean, the O'Farrell hat box that I'm wearing. That's the hat box for my hat. It's kind of blocking out the Buffalo Lake poster. A Charlie LeBeau mystery. So this is the second book in the series, and show the back because it's a photo of me up in the mountains here in northern New Mexico. And I'll just read that in too. We're doing a lot of reading today. So, Buffalo Lake, a Charlie LeBeau mystery. Bureau of Indian Affairs Police Sergeant Charlie LeBeau is back on the case. A retired priest is dead. A historic Catholic church burns to the ground. Notorious Twin Cities gangsters are insistent. Charlie wades into the mysteries surrounding Buffalo Lake. So, this is it's like a made for TV movie script right here. For those out there that might be in that business, you're looking for looking for some content to make into a movie, Saturday night movie on ABC or whatever that was. There you go. There's a little mystery. And I think of that for some reason, I have this picture in my mind. There was I think it was what was it? Columbo, Peter Falk. I think that's what it was. And he was in Saturday Night Mystery movies all the time. And I remember there was one old one that was that Johnny Cash was the star of the Saturday Night Mystery movie, and part of I think the very beginning was he killed somebody on an airplane, then parachuted out, and the plane crashed. But he survived, but he got injured when he parachuted out. I think he broke his leg or something. So there's a suspicion right there. And then Peter Falk as Columbo had to come in and solve the mystery. And that's the type of mystery where they show you all this stuff that's, you know who the guilty party is, but the detective doesn't know. So he's trying to put the pieces together. Meanwhile, the observer, the audience members know that you can do it. Yeah, that's the guilty guy. So it's one of those types of mysteries. This is not that type of mystery. You don't know who the bad guy is in this until the very end when it's revealed. It's a good mystery. Charlie LeBeau mystery, Buffalo Lake. Pick it up now at your local Amazon dealer. Well, I mean, I don't know how local they are. I think that I'm not sure you can get it any place but Amazon, but if you can, I think that they print these on demand, and they're just paperback. I think you can get them on Kindle too. But the paperback's always better. Give your eyes a rest from the screen. Just buy a copy of it so you can have it. Make notes in it, whatever you want to do. But I just paperback for now. But I think I talked about before that they have an option to make hardcover books, and I think I'm gonna try to do that at some point for all my books, just so I have a so I have a hardcover book myself, and I can put it on the shelf behind me or someplace. If I readjust my office and have shelves and I can display books and prove how smart I am by showing showing that I have books in my room, even though it's questionable whether I've actually read them. I assure you that I did read this book multiple times when I was editing. So I have read at least, I don't know, 9 books because I've written 9 books. I'm not going to go out any further than that for the for the time being. But so a long ad today pushing Buffalo Lake, the Charlie LeBeau mystery. There you go. Pick it up now. But I wanted to, it's funny, and I finally made the notes here, and I think it was before I went on hiatus. So I think it was the last podcast or second to last podcast where I was into the podcast, and I was going to say something, then I forgot what I was going to say, and then I said, "Oh yeah, I remember what I was said," and I was going to say it, and then I forgot. It's like, well, I'll remember it if it's important. But actually, what at that time, what it was I wanted to talk about, and I have notes here about it, was that I went over that threshold of 20 podcasts. I think I'm on podcast 25 now. And I was going through the statistics before this podcast so I could share them again and how I guess saturated saturated the society is with podcasts now. But the numbers are, I think, like 4.5 million podcasts out there. And it's about 90%, between 45 and 90% of those podcasts only have 3 episodes. And then if you, uh, I guess once you've gone past, you make that 4th episode, you're in the top 90% of podcasts out there for content. And if you go over 20 episodes, you're in like 1%. You're in the 1% class of podcasts with that amount of content. So I've made it into the top 1% of podcast content out there now, which is a far cry from actually people viewing or hearing your podcast. But as far as content goes, I'm in the top 1% according to these statistics, which is it's just absolutely hilarious to me. I'm glad I could remember that and talk about this on the podcast because it was so funny to me and embarrassing at the same time. I try not to be embarrassed about stuff because if you're gonna do anything publicly, and this goes out publicly, I'm not trying. I don't think I've edited anything as far as filtering out stupid things I've said or mistakes or wrong words. Who knows what crazy things I've said. But you try not to be embarrassed by stuff. And I've gone through things where during the podcast where I just completely blank on what I was going to say, or forgetting somebody's name, or doubting that I've said the correct name or whatever thing I'm talking about. It's so funny, and just try to remember that there's nothing to be embarrassed about because human beings make mistakes. People say crazy things all the time, and it's funny. It's funnier that way when you don't even realize you've said something wrong, and then people point it out to you. It's like, what are you even talking about? So it just makes me laugh. So anyway, um, I think I will end with a quote. I'm going to wrap up this podcast. Keep it under an hour today. But I just, for some reason, this struck me when I was going through these statistics. I came up with this quote, and it it's it's all apologies to JFK, John F. Kennedy, President Kennedy. These are all apologies to him. This could be a music update with All Apologies by Nirvana. They have a song called All Apologies. I recommend it. It's an okay song. But I put this in the in the context of the recurring section of abusive language or verbal abuse. And again, I don't know how I tried to silence my phone, but I got a phone call and it was a stupid spam phone call again that I just get every day. I should know, even about this time. It seems like the same time, even though I block all these phone calls, I still get them. And I have the I have it on silent mode on my iPhone sitting right here. Yet it still notifies me. It comes up on my computer. I get my watch notification vibrating in little chimes and stuff. So I don't know. I guess maybe I should take my watch off during the podcast, but I guess never learn. So where was I? I was talking about JFK, and all apologies to JFK. And I guess when I like I said, I was going through these statistics with podcasts, and this popped into my mind, and I came up with this. You probably know where I'm going, but here it is. Ask not what you can do for this podcast, but what this podcast can do for you. Again, I apologize. That's ridiculous. And I'm embarrassed. I still haven't completely, absolved myself from embarrassment, which is, one of a key trait from Scott Adams was that if you can not become embarrassed, it's like a superpower because, what does it even mean to become embarrassed? I mean, you just feel foolish for what? Societal norms are violated. Oh boy, you said something wrong. You're embarrassed. It's not like you're, you know, lighting the world on fire or something like that. You may have just said something wrong. Maybe you're trying to get a laugh and the joke doesn't land quite right and people get all upset and clutch their pearls like, oh my, so what? I mean, that's one of the best pieces of advice I can give. Besides, the chapter, the Yogi Berra article, and try to build up your fellow Americans and fellow partners and kids and everybody else out there. Help them if you can, I guess. Just, nudge them in the right direction. But also talk to them about embarrassment. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. I mean, it's just life and being human because you make mistakes. There's nothing, nothing to be embarrassed about, really. So anyway, that's it. Again, I'm going to sign off before 1 hour's up today. And it's, again, a high quality 1 hour episode of the podcast. I'm going to sign off. We don't say goodbye. We just say see you next time. And again, it's be assertive, be positive, be proactive. This is the new year. It's your chance to take the bull by the horns, all those old sayings. And, it's not goodbye. It's see you later. And as usual, it's knock and the door will be open to you. Seek and you will find. Ask and you shall be given. All right. Have a good Tuesday evening and good rest of the week. I'm not sure if I'll get back this week for another podcast. I'm trying to get these next chapters out, but it's been a pleasure. So that's it. See you next time. And if you're out in the cold, try to stay warm.